I don't want to know how.
And then, of course, for some reason, you can deactivate the collision warning system. But you can also deactivate the lane departure too. And really, lane departure, all that does is vibrate the steering wheel if you cross a line.
I was gonna say, is there any sounds or beeps or anything,
No,
or it's just the vibration? Oh, yeah. That's better. Okay.
And then you'll be like, what's this? But you'll see a little green car with a lane symbol, and then all that means is the system is active. You'll see it pop up from time to time.
Okay.
Down here, of course, you have your dual climate control. You have auto, and how auto works is basically it'll just keep the temperature to whatever you set it at.
Oh, okay. So I'll change it. Okay.
So, but if you just want to use it as a normal climate control, you just take the auto off. Fan speed here, and then this right here, if you notice a little diagram, it'll change the arrows.
There you go.
And it'll change your airflow. And then the rest of your comfort amenities down here, you have like your heated seats, max defrost for cold mornings. Yeah, you got the rear defroster, air circulation, AC, max AC. And down here you have the parallel park assist, which I think you've probably seen a video on already.
I did watch a video on that, and I teased my son. He's 15, and we're working on a truck. It's an old one, but still, it's
up against a curb.
Yeah,
it'll put your car against the curb.
Oh, that's not cool.
So that you have to be careful of. Okay. But it's also your front park distance controls too. You know, like how the rear sensor will go off when you're backing up. So will the front. So if you go through a drive-through, it'll start going crazy.
If you're going too close to the wall.
Yeah. So what you do is you can just click that and it'll turn it off.
Okay.
And there's actually a setting in here where you can actually deactivate it completely.
Okay.
This right here is the start-stop. You can turn it off by just clicking that. And that's just when the engine cuts off when you're stopped.
Oh, that's right. Your Jeep had that back in the day.
And then you got the traction control here, dynamic stability control. People who drive their cars more aggressively will keep them off because it can limit the engine speed through certain turns. And then if you ever get stuck in the snow too, which, I mean, you probably won't in this, but if you do, you can turn this off and it'll keep the tires from spinning so bad.
So this is the 2024 Mini Cooper Countryman S, all four. That is a mouthful, but I think I got it. So this is the wife's car. She actually ordered this back in the late winter time frame, and it just now came in. So, obviously they build them over in Europe, and then they have a long trek over on a ship, and then this one came into port, I think, in Baltimore, Maryland, and then it made the journey across the Midwest and ended up at her dealership in Indianapolis. Here in Kentucky, we don't have a Mini dealership anymore. Years ago, we had one in Louisville, but it closed up, and so now we have Nashville, Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, Cincinnati, Ohio, or Indianapolis, Indiana. Those are the closest Mini dealerships to where we live. Any of them are a 3 or 4 hour trek away, at least 3 hours, a good solid 3 hours to get to any of them. Cincinnati is probably the closest. It's still going to be a little over 2 hours. But anyway, while I'm on that topic, she ended up ordering this one with Dreyer Reinbold Mini there in Indianapolis, and I have to say, fantastic experience. It wasn't my deal and it wasn't my car, but fantastic experience. I went up there with her, and I've been in on a lot of car deals over the years, way too many car deals. I've dealt with some dealerships and some people that are not so great and some that are excellent, and then everything in between. The people at Dreyer Reinbold Mini in Indianapolis, if you're watching this video, fantastic. They gave her a great interest rate, a very fair deal. They didn't try to push anything on her when it was time to do the paperwork. They offered her all the things that they normally offer you, extended warranties, paint protection, all that stuff, but they didn't push it on her. When she decided that she didn't want those things, they were cool with that, and they said, well, you've got X amount of time to change your mind, and then we moved on. Just a great process. We were in and out of there in no time. Fantastic. But anyway, so back to the car. So they had the first generation Mini Cooper Countryman. I think it came out in like 2010. My wife had a 2011 model that looked very similar to this in terms of color scheme, but it had the Tremec 6-speed manual transmission. She drove that for about a year and decided that she was kind of tired of driving a stick shift You know, a lot of the time she would have nice shoes on or heels or whatever, and it's just not all that great, you know, comfort-wise to row through the gears when you're dressed nice to go to work. So she wanted an automatic transmission. She turned that one in and got a 2012 model that had the automatic. And as time went on, she got rid of that and moved on to other things. Well, she's always wanted another Mini. She's always wanted it. And this is the second generation. This is the last model year of the second generation. And she decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on it, so she ordered this one up. Now, like I said, 2024. For 2025, there's an all-new model coming here in America, and it's going to be more heavily based on the BMW SUV. And I think it's even going to have new powertrains. From what I understand, might get something like a 50 horsepower bump. So if performance is what you're really after, you might want to wait for a 25. But the good thing about getting a 24 is these have been around for several years. They got all the bugs worked out of them, and they should be pretty dependable cars. Now that brings me to another point. The first generation, I don't think was all that reliable. My wife had 2 of them. Like I said, both of them went back to the dealership in the first 12 months with engine repairs being needed. You know, and that's in the first year of ownership. Aside from that, the cars were really hard to maintain at home, really hard to work on. You could barely even get to the oil filter. They had a lot of rattles and creaks and moans, and I just didn't ever feel like they were very good cars, and they were really expensive. I mean, 10, 12 years ago, they were almost $40,000, and to me, that was just a lot of money for a little bitty compact car. You know, back in those days, you could spend $25,000 on a domestic brand and get a whole lot more cars. So I never felt like they were a very good value. But fast forward to the second generation, and they have changed a lot of things on this car. One of them being the maintenance. I've already noticed that the oil filter and everything is underneath now. There's access panels underneath the car to get to all that. So if you're one of these guys like me who likes to do service at home, they've made it to where you can actually do it at home now. The car seems to be physically just a little bit larger. You know, I'm about 6'3". I'll show you here in a minute. I can get in the front and the back and be very comfortable in this car, despite its small stature. So that's pretty awesome. You know, the look of the car has obviously remained generally the same. You know, that's one of the calling cards that Mini has, is the look of the car. So they didn't change it a lot, but they did tweak a few things that make it look pretty sharp and modern, I think. For example, on this one, I like the black accents. You got black door handles, black mirror caps. You know, if you look in the front there, you've got bezels around the headlights that are black. So a lot of black accents and trim, which I think makes it look very modern and sporty, kind of cool looking, you know. And like I said, I'm going to bring you over and show you the interior more than anything. I think that's where the biggest changes came in the second generation, is in the interior. And, you know, for 2024, the iconic trim here has some standard things on it that I think were not formerly standard, like, for example, the power lift gate and so forth and so on. So it's a pretty good value now, because like I just said a minute ago, in the older days when the first gen came out, they were really expensive relative to what else was out there. But this car stickered at only like $43,000. So the price hasn't really gone up a lot over the years on this car, even though you get more content and everything. And the price on the competing cars in the segment, the competitors' cars is what I was trying to say, the prices on those have gone way up over the last 10 or 12 years. So they've really done a good job of keeping the price in check on the Mini Countryman. And now I think that it's a better value than it used to be. She absolutely loves this thing. I've gotten to drive it. She let me drive it once or twice, and I have to say it does drive pretty nice. But hey, I want to get the camera and bring it over here and show you the interior and show you how I fit in it, so that you can see they've really done a good job of managing the space in this little car. So first of all, let me just show you how I fit in the car. So again, I'm about 6'3", and when I get in this car, I don't really have to do a whole lot in terms of, you know, kind of crunching myself up. I can get in here. You can see the leg room that I've got. I don't even know if the seat's all the way back. It's not. You can put the seat farther back if you wanted to. And in fact, this car has memory seats, 2-position memory seats. So my wife set it the way she likes it, and I set it the way that I like it. You do have a tilting and telescoping steering wheel. So that's a really nice feature. But you can just see that I'm, got plenty of leg room, plenty of headroom, and it's really not cramped at all, despite the fact that it's a small car. Now, I've got the seat here, where I'm pretty comfortable. Like if I was going to drive this car right now, I think I'd probably put it right about there. Now watch this. Not only can I be comfortable in the front, but I can actually sit behind myself in the rear. And I have knee room. I'm going to bring the camera over and get a close-up of this in just a minute. But the rear seat actually has a sliding feature. You can make it go forward, backward, and get really comfortable. So this is in the farthest back position, and I can sit here behind myself. So two full-grown men can sit, front to back in this car, obviously on both sides. And that's really awesome because in the first generation, I don't remember being able to do that and be comfortable. So, I think they really have added a little bit of space and some more leg room and headroom. My head is not touching. It's close. I've probably got about 2 inches at the top of my head, but it's not touching. And this car does have the panoramic sunroof and all that. So, usually cars that have that have a decrease in headroom. But even with that, I can sit in here and be completely comfortable. So let me get the camera and bring it over and I'll give you a close-up. So she opted for the blue interior. It's a really sunny day out here, so I hope that the camera is doing this justice. But I really think that the blue interior on this car does set it off. It is pretty awesome, I have to admit. Let me crawl in here again in the back seat, and you can see where my knees are. I've got space. My knees are not touching. They're close, but I have space down here. And like I said, I have plenty of headroom. My head's not touching at all. So, I could actually ride back here behind another full-grown man and be just fine. But as you can imagine, if you've got, like, for example, my wife driving the car, she's going to move the seat way up if she's driving it, and then I'm going to have tons of leg room back here. So very good use of space, despite the fact that it's a compact car. I thought it was kind of interesting that you have some pockets back here. For some reason, a lot of vehicles are doing away with the pockets on the back of the seats. You have your air conditioning vents, 2 USB ports. So both of your rear seat passengers have USB ports. And you also have this neat little cup holder here that you can slide down and open up. So you got a couple of cup holders there. And of course your headrests are movable there. And you can also obviously fold the seats down with this lever right here. I'm not going to fold it all the way down, but you can fold the seats back, and then you have a lot more usable storage space back here. Now in the front here, another thing that they changed on the second generation is that they moved the window switches all over here to the door. You remember on the first gen, they were over there in the center console. There's advantages and disadvantages to doing it both ways, but I think that she prefers it like this. So again, you do have the really cool blue interior. One thing I like about this car also for tall guys is that you have an adjustable seat cushion here, so you can extend that out. And for guys like me, that's really nice because it gives you some support on the back of your thigh. Move out of the way, B. There's the memory seat buttons, so you can set that for a couple of drivers. In our case, we're vastly different in height, so it's nice to be able to do that. Get into the car here. Pretty warm day outside. So you guys have probably seen this before. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over it, but I think there's some pretty cool features here. She does have the heated seats. You've got your defrost for your mirrors and things like that. Obviously, your air conditioning controls. One of the things that's super cool is the sport mode. Now, on a lot of cars, when you put it in sport mode, it's hard to really even tell the difference. But I'm going to tell you what, when you put this car in sport mode, you can really tell a difference. It's immediately noticeable. Transmission shifting is totally different. And it just generally feels like it does have more power. So I'm going to start the car up here. You got this neat little start-stop toggle switch. Oh, radio was loud. Turn the radio down a little bit there. Okay, so this car has the heads-up display, which is really neat. Although I don't totally understand it because, okay, this is my vantage point right here, right? Well, look at this. The information is really close together. Most of the heads-up displays that I've seen in my lifetime actually put the display up here on the glass so that when you're looking down the road, you're also seeing the information. To me, I thought that was kind of the point, was to be able to maintain your view down the road and see the information you want to see. If you've got to look down to see it, then why not look down 3 or 4 more inches? You know, I mean, it's all right here. I mean, what's the point here? But anyway, it does have that feature, so that's kind of cool if you like that sort of thing. This is new, well, at least on the 2nd gen cars, it's new. So it kind of reminds me of like a UTV, you know, like a really fancy Polaris RZR or something like that. You've got this little pod here that has all kinds of information in it. I can't even begin to go over all of the things that you can do in here. And you've got your standard buttons on your steering wheel for your audio controls, you know, your voice command controls, cruise control. This car does not have adaptive cruise control, which I thought was kind of weird, you know. All of the stuff they put on this car in this iconic 2.0 trim, it should come standard with adaptive cruise, but it doesn't. You've got paddle shifters here, and I've used those and they actually work pretty well. You know, automatic headlights, automatic high beam headlights, by the way. And then of course all of your wiper controls are over on that stalk. Now, I'm not even going to begin to get into all this stuff. You've probably seen it before anyway if you've been researching these cars. And there's so much in here that it takes a long time to get used to it. You know, if you're a guy like me who's used to the domestic stuff like the Uconnect systems and the Ram trucks and Jeeps, or the sync systems and the Fords, if that's what you're used to, when you try to do this, man, you're going to be like, holy smoke, this is crazy. All the stuff that's just different in here. You know, you can look in your My Mini, all your different settings, vehicle settings, driver profiles, and all that stuff. I mean, there's just so much going on here that I can't even begin to get into all of it. But it is cool how much you can do here. Now, one thing that I don't like about this car, and a lot of vehicles are going this way, is that there's no dipstick on the engine, so you cannot physically see the oil level in the engine. To me, that's just crazy, and I'm not even sure how to get to it. Let me see if I can find it and show you that. All right, there it was. It was in the menu. It was called Vehicle Status. So if you go into vehicle status, you can see things like your tire pressure and all that. But here's one that says engine oil level, and it tells us the engine oil level is okay. You can actually measure the engine oil level in here electronically. That's the only way to do it. There's no dipstick, so you can't physically see the oil level. So basically you're relying on a sensor to tell you that your engine has got oil and it's not going to lock up and blow up on you. I don't like that. I like to be able to quickly pull a stick and see that there's oil in the engine. I'm surprised they went this way. Like I said, a lot of the European engines are going that way. I've heard that the new Hurricane i6 that's coming out in some of the Jeeps and Ram trucks is that way. I haven't been able to verify that, but that's what I've heard. So anyway, keep that in mind. If you're a guy like me who likes to do your own maintenance, this is going to bug you, but that's just the way that it is. On the camera, it probably looks like this light around the bezel is flickering. To the naked eye, it does not look like that. It's just frame rate issue. But obviously, you can change the colors on that. That's one of the big things that Mini does. They give you all kinds of lighting at night. Even the dash kind of lights up. There's like an ambient glow inside the dash here that you can see at night. You got footwell lighting, handle lighting. You know, lighting here. There's lighting all over this car. I mean, it looks like a 1950s era jukebox in here at night. It's really cool. I like that a lot. Automatic climate control, one of my favorite features. I don't think the wife really likes to use the auto setting a lot, but man, I love automatic climate control, because you press one button and that's all you do. You never have to touch it again. I mean, other than putting the temperature where you like it. In our case, it's on 72 a lot of the time. You might like it a little cooler or a little warmer, but you just set it and you leave it alone. The car does everything. I think it's awesome. Of course, you got all your, standard light controls and everything up here. Sunroof with the shade. So, I mean, it's a very well optioned, well featured car. There are some safety what am I trying to say here? Features, I guess is what they call it. Some safety enhancements probably would be a better way to put it on these newer models also. Even though it doesn't have the adaptive cruise control, it has a lot of the standard things of the day. And that might be found in the intelligent safety. You got frontal collision warning, you have lane departure warning and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of helps with your insurance rates a little bit too. So that's pretty nice. Now, like I said, as far as driving the car goes, that's what these little sporty cars are all about, right? The steering wheel has a really nice leather wrap on it, feels excellent in the hand, but I'm not a big fan of these huge bolsters here at the 10 and 2 position. I think they're overdone, and I like to hold the car or hold the steering wheel right here, and it's just an unnatural, weird feel to me to be grabbing onto these humps on both sides. So personally, I'd like to do without those, but the feel of the material is top notch. I mean, it feels excellent. The car steers pretty nice. Being an all-wheel drive, this one does not have the torque steer that you experience in a lot of your front-wheel drive cars. Commonly a front-wheel drive car that has a lot of power. If you're under throttle, you can feel that torque steer, right? Well, since this one's all-wheel drive, you don't have a lot of that because all four wheels kind of share the load, and so the steering is not affected as much under throttle. It handles pretty well. The power is good. It's not a rocket ship by any means, and you wouldn't expect it to be with 190 horsepower, but the power is good. I would definitely recommend getting the S model with the 2-liter turbo engine. If you're gonna get one of these cars, absolutely get the S model. That additional 40 or 50 horsepower, whatever it is, I don't know the exact number. I know that it's pretty substantial. You definitely want it because, like I said, even in the S model, it's not a rocket ship, but it is pretty fast though for what it is. It's pretty quick, don't get me wrong. So, it's got good power. The throttle response, I'm not a big fan of. To me, I don't even know if I would call it turbo lag. I think it's more this like throttle lag, but when you take off from a red light or you're trying to merge into traffic or something, I don't think the throttle response is all that great. It seems like you got to press on that pedal and kind of wait for a couple of moments for the car to react. And it's a little less pronounced in sport mode, but most people don't want to drive around in sport mode all the time. You press that lever and that's where you can change from sport to regular to fuel efficient mode, but anyhow, throttle response could be a little better, but it's got pretty decent power. The brakes feel great. Handling is great. Overall, it's a pretty fun car to drive. I'll tell you what, when you put it in sport mode, the sound of the engine changes a lot. I mean, I told her the other day we were driving somewhere, I think it sounds like a rally car. It's just got that deep, low induction roar to it for a 4-cylinder when you put it in sport mode. I really like that. So yeah, cool little car, lots of fun, nice interior. I wish the camera would kind of chill out a little bit here. I think it's overexposed, but this is kind of like a really neat bluish color, something different that you don't see in every vehicle out there. If you want to pop your bonnet, you have to reach down here, and that's where your bonnet release is going to be. I'm kind of getting into the habit of calling it a bonnet. So we'll take a look under here. You've got your twin power turbo badging on the engine cover. Obviously your oil fill, your windshield wiper fill, your air conditioning charge ports, brake fluid, your battery, positive terminal. They make everything fairly easy to get to. One of my big gripes about these front wheel drive architecture cars is that everything is shoehorned in there and you just can't work on them, you know. But Mini has done a pretty good job here, I think, of using the space they've got and at least making things, you know, to where you can get to them if you have to. I mean, you can get in there and do, you know, check your fluids, do some basic maintenance and stuff if you need to. So that's not too bad overall. I suppose that if you wanted to get the battery out of this car, you know, being buried up under the cowl, it'd be a little bit involved. But in theory, you should only have to do that once every 3 years. So it's not really a big deal. So yeah, kind of neat. I think that maybe they had some complaints about the first gen and how difficult it was to do maintenance on, because there's some obvious improvements here. One thing that I will note is that if you see right here, they recommend 0 W20 engine oil. Now you guys, if you've been watching any of my videos, you know that I personally would never put 0 W20 in any engine, and especially not a turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder engine like this that's shoehorned into an engine bay, and there's going to create a lot of heat in here. All right, I don't know. I mean, we can go into this if we want to another time, but I just don't think that there's any way I would do that. I don't think the 0 W20 oils are really what's the healthiest for the engine. I think this is purely a fuel economy play on the part of the manufacturer to save EPA fines and all that. But anyway, I've got other videos on that as it regards, you know, my Ram pickup, because my Ram pickup specs the same viscosity, and I've had really great results dumping that and going to something better. Just my opinion. If you want these engines to last long term, don't wait, you know, and change them at 10 or 15,000 miles. Do it sooner, and don't use this really low viscosity oil. Use something that will hold up to the heat. So there you have it. That's the 24 Mini Countryman S. I think it's kind of cool how the tail lights have that Union Jack look to them. Maybe you can see it on camera. I don't know. Can you kind of see that? When the tail lights come on, it's really noticeable. Pretty awesome. Like I said, I like the black lettering and the black accents. I think that really makes this car look modern and sporty. At first, I thought it would look a lot better with black wheels, but you know, the more I look at this car, those silver wheels are not very bad. I mean, it's kind of an accent piece to the car. You do have a lot of black, so it's kind of nice to have something that's a little different to set it off. They play well together. It's kind of hard to get used to having the fuel tank on this side of the car. Almost every other car I've ever seen has the fuel door on the other side. Got to remember that. This color is actually kind of nice too. It's not a straight white. It's actually got some pearl in it, which is pretty popular these days. Not too shabby. I think I completely forgot to mention that it has sensors in the front and the back to help you park the car. Even though parking a little car like this is not really a difficult thing to do, it's always nice to have some help, right? And that's also how the pedestrian warning system works. So again, a nice suite of safety features on this car. And I think it really does keep the insurance rates down, because to ensure this car is less expensive than my Ram Laramie that I got last year, believe it or not. It's all about safety to the insurance companies. So that's a look at the 2024 Mini Cooper Countryman S ALL4. And hopefully you learned a couple of things here. And you know, like I said, I used to think these cars were not really that great of a value, but I kind of like this new, well, I keep saying new model. I guess for the time being, it's still the new model. Although there's another one coming out next year. But the second generation of the Countryman definitely has some marked improvements, and I kind of like it. Now, she told me that I'm not allowed to steal the car and go to town and shoot this video at the park while she's not here, so I didn't do that. Just going to shoot some video here in our own driveway. But pretty neat little car. She absolutely loves it. When she picked it up that day, I haven't seen her that happy in a long time. So I'm hoping this car will be dependable and reliable for a long time and will serve her well. And if you guys have one of these cars, drop a comment below and let us know. That's all I've got for now. Maybe we need to get some mud tires for it. Just saying. We'll talk to you later.